All right, so hi guys. We are at the first day of Artmas. I know. Here we are, and we are going to be kicking it off with some pros about being a freelance artist from someone who's been doing it for many, many years. And then tomorrow we are going to have the cons because I also have a Q&A plan for some point during these 12 days because the 12 days of Artmas is unlike Vlogmas that everybody else does. I mean, I am technically doing Vlogmas, but it's a little different. I'm not doing it every single day. But yeah, I want to see if I can do this, and I've already got more than halfway done for the backlog, so let's keep it going. All right, anyway, rambles aside. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and feed that stupid bot because saying that has helped so much. Please also remember to share. I get comments all the time of people who are saying like, oh, I really don't understand why your channel's so small, and oh, I don't know why this is happening, blah, blah, blah. Share it. Share it. Even if you don't have a big audience, share videos. I used to be skeptical about it too, but that really does show a giant impact and a giant difference. So, with that little shill out of the way, and all of my social media is in the link tree link down below if you want to follow me on other places because YouTube is dumb. Let's get into the pros of being a freelance artist. All right, so first of all, little disclaimer, because I like doing this every time I make a video like this. I have only done a couple of NDA works for publishers that I legally cannot talk about, but I have not worked with comic book companies. I have mostly worked with indie self-published people or, random people who want to commission me on the internet. That's where my demographic is. So if this is, how do you freelance for an industry? How do you freelance for a network? How do you freelance for a big publishing company? I don't have the answers to that because I have yet to do those. So look those up. These are just from the, random Joes and the random experiences I've had doing this full time for a very, very long time. And something else I always like to say so people understand is when I started doing this full time, I was making the exact same amount of money I was making at my minimum wage job. I've talked about this constantly because some people seem to think that I was just making all this money when I quit my jobs. I wasn't. I was making the exact same amount that I was making with my stuff doing freelance and commission work. So that's what helped me make that transition, especially because at the time, I didn't have many bills. I had dropped out of school. And so, school as in college, not high school. I did graduate high school. But I was able to make it with that. So, it was also a good right time. That's something I want to emphasize because a lot of people tend to think that I was just making all this buco bucks when I quit. And I wasn't. I was making very normal money. And now I pretty much make okay money. I'm not rolling in the dough, but I'm definitely making enough that I'm making more than minimum wage at a full-time salary right now. So I always like to get that out of the way so that way people understand. Now, my first big thing I have right here is I was making at least minimum wage at the time that I quit my job with my freelance commissions. And that's really, really important because I've talked about before where when you start out, you shouldn't start off at minimum wage. And that is my Discord going off, which I thought I muted. Every time. You don't come here for professional videos. You come here for rambles. But what I was trying to say, hello ADHD brain. What I was trying to say was at the time I was working a minimum wage job where I was working anywhere between 20 to 30 hours a week, varying the week. And I was also doing commissions on the side. I was no longer going to school. I didn't have many bills. I was in my early 20s. And I had been doing commissions since I was in high school. I had been doing them off and on, as I've said constantly. And I started with very, very low prices. And a lot of people are like, well, you need to be charging at least minimum wage. Good luck with that. Like I said, I've always hated bigger artists telling people that. Especially if you don't have one that good of an art skill. Being an artist is a skill. It does come with training and practice. This isn't to downplay things, but as I said in one of my previous videos, if I had minimum wage be back when I was starting out, I probably would have gotten no commissions. And I think it's kind of stupid advice to tell people, realistically. I do. I genuinely think it's stupid advice to tell young artists, because then they get their hopes up, because then you'll see people compare it where they're like, oh, wow, that's $20 when I can get that, but from someone who's better. And then the younger artist, and by younger, I don't mean age, I mean like younger in skill, because, anyone can be an artist at any age. They get disheartened because they're like, oh yeah, why would people buy this for me for that price when they can buy that for this price? Stop telling young artists to charge minimum wage. It's gonna just hurt their feelings. I know this is a pro, but it's something that really gets under my skin, because I've had people tell me they've compared their prices to my prices. And I've been someone who's been doing this for 10 plus years. And then they're surprised when they don't have an audience and they don't get commissions, and they're very disheartened, and they're like, this is why people said I can't do it. No. The catch is, don't overwork yourself, okay? When I first started, I did $5 bust commissions and like some point commissions on like DA and stuff back in the day, before I knew like the actual equivalence of like points to money. Start off slow. Don't overwork yourself. Don't overburden it. At most, have like 5 commission slots. Start working your way up. See how fast you can do that. And then as you grow and as you network and as you get better, then raise your prices. And that's what I did. And that helped me a ton, because there were some days where it's like, well, I wasn't getting commissions. Hence why I had a job to pay for it while I was doing it, because it was something I was doing anyway. So that's something that is really important. At the time that I quit my job, I was able to charge minimum wage for my commissions for my time. And that was when I was doing almost all digital work at the time, because I used to do like a mix of traditional and digital, and I still kind of do, but my traditional commissions are a very much like you have to ask basis, because they would not sell well after a while. And so with that being said, okay, all you're paying for when you're doing digital artwork, if your art program is paid for, you're just paying for your time at that point. That's literally all you're paying for, because all your stuff is already paid for because you have it. So that's something that's really important to keep in mind when you want to do that as a pro, is do it when it is the right time and you are in a right environment. I had a very supportive family. I have a very supportive partner. And at the time I talked to them and I was like, showed them like, hey, I'm making the exact same amount of money I'm making working my part-time job doing this. Can I just do this? And they were supportive of it, because I was still able to pay all my bills and do all my stuff at the time. And then I was able to work on it from there. And now another really big pro, 8 minutes into this audio, is I was no longer wasting money on gas. When you are working part-time, minimum wage, you can know how much of a struggle it is if you do not have a good fuel efficient car, which I definitely don't, because my husband and I like older cars because they are cheaper and we don't have a car payment. So because of that, when you're making maybe $8 an hour, because that's what I used to make back in the day, because I live in California, so our prices did technically go up, and gas was almost $5 a gallon, I would feel pissed off that I would be wasting so much gas just going to work. Just getting to work cost money. That's the first thing you don't have to worry about if you're becoming a freelance artist, is you're working from home, so you are no longer leaving. Now, I know, at the time of making this, we are in the middle of Six Spiky Round Boy, so the normal people who don't work retail or service industry or an essential worker, you are working from home. So the average person, and when this eventually does subside, things are going to go back to how it used to be. In a sense, things are going to change, but I don't want to talk about that in this video. But with that being said, you understand that's a huge thing you don't have to worry about anymore. You don't have to worry about wasting money on gas, and you technically do not have to worry about, your lunch. Because I used to be notorious for forgetting my lunches and just buying something at my job, because I worked at a big store that had like food and normal retail stuff at the time. So you get to save a lot of money with that and your travel, and also your like work attire, because you can work in like whatever the heck you want. Unless you live stream, then you got to at least wear clothes. And so with that being said, I think that's another really big pro to it, because when I was looking at picking up some side work before Six Becky Round Boy kicked in, half the jobs I couldn't take because I'm sitting here like half my paycheck's gonna go to gas because it's far away. That's not even worth it at that point, because then I'm literally making half the money I would be, and my time would be getting sucked away from what I'm doing now. And so that's something you need to keep into account too, because a lot of people don't really realize that. I know when I was younger, I didn't realize how much gas money did affect it in the long run when you're a freelancer, you know? And so the next thing is, obviously, you get to make your own hours. So let's say, I know a big thing is when you work retail and you work part-time and stuff like that, your hours tend to be very wonky and very inconsistent. Well, when you get to make your own hours, which is also something I will be talking about in the cons video, because that's one of those double-edged sword comments, perks, I should say, not comments, is you can keep yourself to a schedule. Let's say a good example is my husband always has weekends off. So I do my best to try to always have my weekends off, unless he is doing something on the weekends. Then I tend to, get an extra day of work in, because I'm a workaholic, and I genuinely do love being a workaholic though. So I've gotten better at not burning myself out, but, that's something you can do. Let's say you have a partner that has a consistent schedule and you don't. You can work your schedule around your partner so you can spend more time with said partner, or friends, or D&D games, or something like that. You just have to make sure you can stick to that schedule, or vice versa. If you have a friend that, wanted to hang out or something all of a sudden, and, you normally had a work day, it'd be like, oh, well, you know what? Yeah, I can drop this, and as long as there's not a deadline due, obviously, I can drop this, go hang out with my friend, and then when I'm done with that, one of my normal days off will just be a work day. It's pretty easy as that. You get to flip your schedule around with that, and I think that's also really important, because that also means that you get to make your own hours, in the sense that, hey, maybe you like working really, really hard 3 days a week. I know people who do like 10 to 12-hour days, which, granted, to some people might be unhealthy, but if they're genuinely happy and enjoying it, and then they only have to work 3 days a week, then the rest of the week they get to do whatever they want and rest up and do, their thing, game reading, whatever. So it all depends on the person. You got to just find what your groove is. And something to that is important, though, is you need to find the balance. You're going to be doing a lot of testing work, especially your first year. Again, I've been doing this for 10 plus years, doing freelance, not full time, but I've been doing it that long. And so I've learned ebbs and flows. I've learned so much. You're going to constantly be learning things. So keep that in mind. Now, the next one I have here is growing your craft. And so with that, you'll be doing a lot of things out of your comfort zone, unless you already have a big audience. I know some people who, they make their audience and they can just sell merchandise. They can just sell fan art. They can just sell prints and stickers and stuff, or work on their comics and stuff like that. That's great. I didn't have any of that when I started out. So I am a ball and chain to the freelance life. But you know what? I like it, because I get to draw a lot of other people's characters. I get to see a lot of other things from people. I get to see a lot of other people's stories. They're not always great, but I usually have more pros than cons in that sense. Sometimes there's some characters that I'm just like, whew, I'm happy this is a paycheck, But other times I'm like, ooh, this is really interesting. I hope I can do more with this character in the future. And I'm happy I get to help someone bring this character to light. And so with that, you're pushing your own boundaries of, character creation and stuff like that for your own stories. I know for a fact that because I've had such varied variation in my commissions over the years and everything like that, my style has changed greatly, and my anatomy has too, because I've had to learn to do different things. I've had to learn, all right, I gotta draw a beefy character, gotta draw a slender character, gotta draw a thick character, gotta draw a furry, gotta draw a scaly, gotta draw, I'm still not the best with animals, but drawing an animal, stuff like that. And you end up breaking out of your comfort zone. You see this with a lot of artists, where some of them have like a box and they only stay in that box. But again, if they're making the money and they're working it in that box, you stay in that box and you be happy. No one judging you. But some of us do like to grow and change and have a bigger portfolio of different things we can do, you know? Another really big thing with that is that, like, learning things you wouldn't think to. I've learned how to format books. I've learned how to format PDFs. I've learned so much about formatting and aesthetics and just, I can't think of the other word right now, and I should have written it down. But there's so many different things that I've learned that I know if I just stayed in my little bubble, I probably wouldn't have, that I have now because of having to test my new boundaries and stuff like that. Another pro, oh my God, okay, especially nowadays, there are so many new ways to network, guys. So many ways to network. I don't think people realize that. You have Craigslist, Indeed, Instagram, Twitter, DeviantArt, Furfinity, Fiverr, YouTube, Facebook Marketplace. There's probably way more that I can't even think of right now. There are so many amazing ways to network. Before Six Spiky Round Boy, we had conventions. If you got in a convention, you could network with so many people. I've only done 3 cons in my life at the time of recording this. I wanted to do more, but again, Six Spiky Round Boy happened, and eventually I am going to do more again. But I know so many people who made their networking from working at conventions, from having good business cards, from showing their work. And you would be so surprised how much networking puts into it. It's a whole nother ballpark out there. And especially if you are a slower artist, it's good to look out for things like that. Look out for the different ways you can network and work with other people. Reach out to other people, offer to do collabs, offer to do this, offer to do that, work out of your comfort zone. Now, obviously, though, if you're working with publishers and you're working with stuff like that, do a bit more research. Don't be as ballsy. You need to make sure you have contracts. You need to make sure you don't get screwed, because I have been screwed over by some contracts that I legally can't talk about because I just didn't properly read. And that's something that it's a live and learn, and it's always a living and learning thing. But there are so many different ways to network now. When I started out, you just had word of mouth and DeviantArt. That was about it. And YouTube, if you were lucky. There are so many ways to get out there now. There are little groups designated towards it. There are entire Twitters designated towards it. But that also means you got to do the work. You got to do the work networking, and that's going to take time. But hey, if you want to do this as a full-time job, that's part of the job. Same with checking emails and, basic paperwork stuff. Now, the next pro, which is kind of a given, is doing what you love. Now, this is what I talk about when I was a workaholic. There are some times where I'm like, ugh, I really don't want to do this. But most of the time, I'll realize I've been working a long day because I was having so much fun with my work, and I didn't realize it. And yeah, that might sound like a lot, and yeah, you're probably gonna technically make under minimum wage in some senses if you overwork yourself too hard. That's why you gotta, eventually live and learn and work through things. But if you're having fun doing it and you can afford to live your lifestyle and you can afford to pay all your stuff and feed your pets and feed you, and you're not so exhausted that, you let yourself go, then it's worth it, in my opinion. Like, I know a big thing is people always ask, why do you always have so much, background footage and all this? No. I'm doing the work anyway, so I'm sitting here I'm doing the work anyway. Half the time my videos are me rambling about things and it's just background footage. Let's just record it and have it. And because of that, I have a bunch of backup footage and a bunch of things like that. It's because it's stuff I'm already doing. Oh yeah, well, if I wasn't doing this, I'd be drawing anyway, so I'd be doing this anyway. And so you end up working harder. But you know what? Even at my worst times and my worst commission stories, they are still so much better than the terrible instances I had at retail and the terrible management I had to deal with back in those days. And I've heard stories from friends. I've heard things like that. And literally all I have to worry about is bad clients. And sometimes people saying stuff about me on the internet, but it's the internet. You're going to find someone who's going to hate you. That's kind of just a sad fact. And you're going to have to get over the fact that you don't even answer sometimes. Sometimes people are just going to hate you, and it sucks. But whatever. And so that's something that's really important, is you are doing something you genuinely love. Now, the key phrase to this, the key importance to this that I want to say while I end this video is you have to make sure you are still enjoying it. If you are so burnt out that you can't work and you're not making money and you're stressing and you're in all this debt and you're freaking out, then at that point, take a break and go get another job. It'll take time. It'll take effort. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not dumb. But if you've lost that spark, then you need to find a way to sustain yourself in some way, shape, or form and get that spark back. It might take years. It could take weeks. Every other person is different. But you need to get that, because if not, then you are going to spiral and it is going to be bad. And it sucks. And I know it's a negative to end on this, but it is an important thing to talk about. And that's why I want to talk about it here. Health comes first. Health and safety. Okay? If you're working so hard that you never get to, buy proper groceries, go out, walk, it's not healthy for you. It's just not. You need to do the basics. And I don't want people taking this advice and just quitting their jobs willy-nilly and doing this and then suffering for it. I was in a very comfortable spot when I did this, and I've been able to work through the ebbs and flows, and I've had those hard times, and I've had those bad thoughts. And that's why I've always said there's no shame in doing it part-time again. There's no shame in having to get a part-time job to equal this out if it's good for your mental and physical health. So keep that in mind. There's no shame in it. We all love you. And I hope these pros helped you out. And tomorrow, we're going to get into the spicy nitty-gritties. We're going to get into the cons. So thank you guys so much. Thank you to my amazing patrons. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. I love you so much. And I will. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.